Do you love TV shows? We do too. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and we're the hosts of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're searching for a new favorite series or ready to revisit an old classic, we're here to guide you through an infinite world of TV shows.
Each episode, we watch and discuss the pilot for shows, while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling and not sure what to watch next, tune in and let us do the searching for you.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hello. How's it going, boo?
Well, it's been, usually like when we're like, oh man, things have been crazy. We always kind of say like the same thing. It's work, or it's work. It's always work.
Travel.
Well, that's work. And but today we actually have a new kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It is for the first time in, I don't even know, 7 years maybe. It's snowing in southern Louisiana, and I mean like legit
Epic.
snow, like actual
like
snow.
100-year snow.
Yes.
Whatever they call it.
It is. We almost broke the record. I think
New Orleans broke their record.
Yeah, Baton Rouge area didn't break their record. I think that happened back in like 1895 or something like that, where it was like 13 or 14 inches. I think we got like 11 for this, but I think that was the highest.
We got 8 here at our house.
Yes.
I think we measured at one point. But we didn't go all over our yard. I mean, it might have been a little bit more.
Right.
But
So anyone that lives in a area where you're used to this kind of thing and you're sitting there thinking like, why is that such a big deal? I can say I've lived in the greater Baton Rouge area for 40 years, minus a few years that I lived in Florida. I'm pretty sure full on snow, actual snow, maybe like 5 times, 6 times in my life.
And then that was probably also like it melted.
Yes.
By later that day.
Yes. And this was the first time, and I kept saying it. I feel like such a dork, but I kept saying it. And I was like, oh my God, it's real snow. That's what I kept saying. And you're like, yeah, it snowed here before. I'm like, no, I've never felt snow that was like powder. That was like
fluffy.
It wasn't ice. It was snow. And so I'd never felt that before. I'm sure it snowed like that before, but every time it snows here and I go outside, it's like I'm stepping on ice. It's just all like ice. And yeah, this time it actually felt like snow. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
yeah, it was all powdery and fluffy.
Yeah.
We went outside and we measured, and then we did snow angels, and then we tried to make a snowman, and that did not go very well.
That was my first time ever trying to make a snowman.
I mean, we probably, if we wanted to stay out longer and play in it, we could have done it, but it was so soft and like powdery, it was like hard to make it get compact.
Yeah.
And we tried using some bowls and whatnot, but that didn't go very well either.
Right.
And then I think we were both just cold and wanted to come in.
Yeah, we're outside for probably about 5 or 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I'm over this. I want to go back inside. I want to take off these layers.
Yeah, it was. And then we got all wet because we were making snow angels. So then it was even colder.
All right, so we are at the end of January. This is going to be our last January episode. So this is the end of New Beginnings. And it's kind of convenient because the name of the episode is The End.
Oh, okay.
And the show we are doing today is Grace and Frankie. I always want to say Gracie and Frank. Grace and Frankie.
And this is not Frankie, the puppy tornado that we watch.
No. Although, if any of y'all saw that snow video of Frankie in the snow on Anna's Facebook, it is about the cutest thing ever.
Oh, my God. He's so freaking cute.
He's a little shit. But we love them. All right, so today we are doing Grace and Frankie, a show that neither one of us had ever seen before, but we had both definitely heard of. I would say we're both fans of Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda. They're both awesome ladies, hilarious. They've been a comedic duo for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
9 to 5 was the first thing, maybe.
Yeah.
And then just throughout the years, they've just done random films and TV shows together, and we love them. So before we get into all of our other stuff, Anna's going to go ahead and give us some episode and series information.
All right, Grace and Frankie, The End. Grace and Frankie was an American comedy that premiered on Netflix on May 8th, 2015. and ended on April 29th, 2022. The series ran for 7 seasons and had a total of 94 episodes. The show was created by Marta Kaufman and Howard J. Morris. Kaufman, of course, is best known for creating Veronica's Closet and Friends. Morris is best known for writing shows such as Home Improvement and According to Jim. Kaufman and Morris wanted to create a show that centered on an age group that is oftentimes not represented on TV, and they also wanted to create a show with the message, it's never too late to start over and find yourself. The series centers around Grace Hansen and Frankie Bergstein, 2 women who are polar opposites and don't necessarily like each other, but are bound to each other due to their husbands being best friends and business partners. When their husbands leave them for each other, Grace and Frankie do the unthinkable and form a bond, eventually becoming best friends. The cast includes some legends, so get ready. Jane Fonda as Grace Hansen, a no-nonsense cosmetics mogul. Lily Tomlin as Frankie Bergstein, a free-spirited artist who rides her own wave. Sam Waterston as Sol Bergstein, Frankie's empathetic ex-husband and a divorce attorney. Martin Sheen as Robert Hansen, Grace's straightforward ex-husband and divorce attorney. June Diane Raphael as Brianna Hansen, Grace and Robert's oldest daughter. Brooklyn Decker as Mallory Hansen, Grace and Robert's youngest daughter. Ethan Embry as Coyote Bergstein, Frankie and Saul's first adopted son. And Baron Vaughn as Bud Bergstein, Frankie and Saul's second adopted son. The series started off slow, getting mixed reviews and people feeling that the show had just casted a bunch of iconic actors and thought that would be enough. It wasn't until the second season and on when the show found its voice and fans began tuning in. Grace and Frankie would go on to be nominated for a total of 13 Emmys, and the cast was praised for their character portrayals. You can watch the entire series on Netflix.
So why do you think you never watched this show, May 8th, 2015?
I'm just thinking that was summer, so I probably wasn't super busy traveling. Yeah. I actually do remember when this came on because I kept thinking it would have been super fun if Dolly Parton had joined the cast, because of 9 to 5. I mean, I just thought that was silly. I mean, I don't think Dolly Parton does a whole lot of TV other than maybe specials or something, but I don't know. And it's crazy because I love Martin Sheen, of course, from The West Wing. And then, Sam Waterston is my boo from Law and Order that I love. So I love everyone in it, even, Brooklyn Decker. I know she is married to Andy Roddick, the tennis player. So I've loved things that she's been in.
Ethan Embry.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think, again, maybe it just suffered from... We've had too much TV to watch.
Yeah.
And I didn't know you then, so I don't know.
I would say
maybe if it was on Netflix, was Netflix a streaming at that point?
At 2015, yeah.
I guess it had to be, but I don't think I was Netflixing.
Oh, okay.
I think that's it. Because I think I sort of started Netflix around 2016-ish.
Gotcha.
So that might have been really why.
Yeah, probably for me was I just wasn't regularly watching stuff at this point in time. This was during when I was working, kind of jumping from job to job, and this was maybe right when I started working back at George's for the second time.
Okay.
The first, technically the first time I came back after the first time I quit. Their eras. And
the George's eras.
And so I think maybe I just didn't jump on it, but I always heard about it. There was the SNL skit with Pete Davidson where there was the music video where everyone's so excited about Game of Thrones and he's excited about Grace and Frankie.
Gotcha.
It was really funny, and I remember it being it was very Pete Davidson, and I remember that, and looking at this cast, I love everybody in this cast. June Diane Raphael's really funny. She's married to forgot his name, and he was in The League. She's been in a bunch of stuff. She's also the writing partner with Casey Wilson from Penny from Happy Endings, which we which we just did last week. So I think it just I think it was one of those shows that I kind of just forgot about, maybe.
I think I maybe saw it then, and
Yeah.
then again just was like, okay, I don't have time for a new show,
Yeah.
or I don't remember what else I was watching.
Because I knew a lot of people that watched this show,
Yeah.
so it was just kind of like it was really popular when it was running. And as you can see, it ran for 7 years, and it had 7 seasons, and it was on Netflix, which is unheard of. That it had a season every year on Netflix.
And I was going to say in a row.
Yeah, that's insane. Though when I saw that, I was like, that was a Netflix show? I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so I definitely... I mean, the episodes were like 30 minutes, so I mean, like, it wasn't a hard watch at all, and of course it was so funny. I was laughing almost immediately. I was laughing.
Yeah, when we get into the pilot summary, we can talk a little more, but I agree. Like, I felt like it was really easy to watch. They did the setup really well.
They really they executed really well. This was a everything a pilot should be, especially a 30-minute one.
Yeah.
That can't be easy to set up an entire series and 22. A lot of these shows 22 minutes. I think this was actually 30 minutes. All right, so Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin are probably considered one of the best comedic duos, at least of their era. We got into a really big conversation about our favorite comedic duos. I see you're still writing some down.
I had one more to add.
So we made a little list of our favorite comedic duos. Now, I did write kind of a lot of them, so I won't get into a great detail for each one. I'll just kind of like list them off a little bit.
Gotcha.
Do you want to go, you kind of have a little list too. Do you want to kind of go back and forth, or do you want to each say one? Do you want to say our full list, or do you want to go back and forth?
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I don't mind going through my whole list and kind of explaining just a little tidbit of each one.
Okay.
I don't know how many you have. I can always either add or whatever
you're good.
if you have way more. So some of mine are like real people, and then some of mine are like TV character duos.
Right.
So
mine are kind of half and half.
Yeah. So I have Chris Farley and David Spade from SNL.
I have that too, so I can take that off mine.
Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, again from SNL. Another sort of couple from SNL, and that's Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World. I mean, that was just, I love that whole era of SNL.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Same.
when they started the movies, and I know they've had movies before, but to me, Wayne's World is one of the more iconic movies that was a real big hit.
I agree.
I will go for my TV show characters that I love are Felix and Oscar from the TV show The Odd Couple. Now, I know that there was a movie. So I'm talking Oscar, Jack Klugman and Tony Randall. And then there is the movie The Odd Couple, and I forgot which.
It's Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon.
Yes,
they're an iconic comedic duo. Yeah.
So both of those were good in their own rights. And I grew up with the TV show.
I never saw the TV show. I've seen the movie a bunch of times, but I've never seen the TV show.
I'm going to hum the music, and it's like, da-da-da-da-da, or whatever it is. Okay. And then what I loved about it was one was really neat and one was really messy.
Well,
and
yeah.
Of course. All right. And then so I also have Rhoda Morgenstern and Mary Richards from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And then Rhoda, Legend. They were neighbors in the apartment. And then I also have Joey and Chandler from Friends. Okay. I feel like they were the most iconic of the two of the Friends. I mean, obviously I know like Ross and Rachel, and then Ross and Monica were related, and then Phoebe loved everyone, so, but I feel like Joey and Chandler were the bromance.
They were kind of the heart. They were definitely like the heart of the show.
And then I'm going to kind of go into my cartoon era.
Okay.
And I have Tom and Jerry.
Well, yeah.
And then I have Scooby-Doo and Shaggy, because those were the cartoons I watched. Scooby-Doo was definitely my Saturday, and then Tom and Jerry was after school.
Gotcha.
And then I also have Ernie and Bert from Sesame Street, because we are the same age. Ernie, Sesame Street and I were both in 1969. And then my last one is for my nephew, and that is SpongeBob and Patrick. Okay. So those are my other ones. What about you?
All right, so I think I have about the same number as you do. I won't get into like super great detail for most of them, but The first one I have is B. Arthur and Rue McClanahan, and specifically in Maude.
Oh, okay.
Also in Golden Girls. Obviously, Golden Girls is their more like famous, but that's a quartet. That's a quad. Everyone kind of had their own interesting dynamic on the Golden Girls, but for me, like B. Arthur and Rue McClanahan kind of started their dynamic on Maude, and I loved Vivian and Maude. I loved their back and forth. Vivian was so like uptight, and Maude was so like just kind of very modern and progressive, and it was just always funny to kind of see their back and forth. And obviously, it proved to be something because they were on probably one of the most iconic shows of the 80s together with Golden Girls, and Maude is also Norman Lear, so that's also iconic. I have, and I can't believe you didn't write this one down, Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum in the 21 Jump Street movies.
Yes. I mean, there are so many I could have listed.
Yeah, I know. Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy.
They've been in so many movies together. I can't believe I
Best in Show is one of my favorite movies.
A Mighty Wind.
A Mighty Wind is so good for your consideration. Of course, Schitt's Creek and so many others. I have to have my YouTube people. I have Dan and Aaron from Game Grumps.
Yes.
I've been watching them for over a decade.
Rhett and Link.
I thought of Rhett and Link.
Ian and Anthony.
Chance and Angela is what I have on here. I have Chance and Angela from Smosh.
Yes, I can't believe I didn't think of my Smosh
almost
people.
did Angela and Amanda because I was just like really anyone in Angela, but I was just like Chance and
Courtney and Shane.
Yeah,
we love you guys.
Yeah, Shane and Damien. Like you have all these like great Noah and Keith. You have all these great like Spencer and Tommy. Like you have all these great like dynamics. But Chance and Angela are number one.
They're like the little brother and little sister I never had.
Right.
So yeah.
We love ourselves some Smosh. So you said Sesame Street. I have the Muppets. I have Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets. Yes. Probably my favorite part of the Muppet Show was those two.
When them up in the balcony, like laughing or being sassy.
I have Key and Peele.
Oh, good one.
I mean, that's one. I loved that show.
Yes.
And you reminded me of this one, and I was surprised I didn't immediately think of it. Troy and Abed.
Oh yeah.
From Community. I mean, they might be number one. They might be my number one.
I know. I'm like was surprised you didn't have it.
I have Tenacious D, which is Jack Black and Kyle Gass. They're a musical comedic duo, but they're so funny, and I love their music, and they're both just so insanely talented. I have Jay and Silent Bob, of course.
Nice.
And then I kind of have like a random one, but Ferris and Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Cute. It's more Cameron that I find so funny, but it really was kind of like their chemistry was just so like, it just felt like they were best friends. Like when you watch, like it felt like they were best friends in real life. If they actually got along, I have no idea, but, and I think, that's it. Yeah. I mean, of course, I'm probably going to think of like 10 more while we're having this conversation.
While you were saying those, I was like, oh yeah, I probably could have thought of this and them and those. And again, I mean, it's endless for comedy duos, like real versus, and even in character. I mean, you have like the Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah, I thought of them.
So
specifically, I mean, you could say like Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. Then you could say like Harold Ramis and Bill Murray. You can kind of play that chain game kind of thing where you can just have one actor and just keep like, I mean, we're both lovers of comedy from all decades, so it's really hard to all platforms. I mean, we were talking about YouTube people just a second ago, and as much as I love horror, I really love to laugh, and I love comedy. So it was really hard because I even had to delete some from my list because I was like, I'm naming too many people.
No, it's never too many.
Yeah, because I thought of some others. But all right, so the episode opens with a pretty public breakup.
Very much,
which we'll get into in a little bit once we go through the plot summary. So that kind of got me thinking: have you ever witnessed a public breakup?
I'm really trying to think, like, I don't know. I mean, I've seen like couples fight in bars. I used to work at the dorm when I was in college, and so I would check the guys into the dorm, whoever they were visiting. So I always knew who couples were, at least in the sorority dorm. And I mean, sometimes I would the guys would come out and they'd be like all mad or something. But I don't know. I'm like really trying to rack my brain if I've ever seen an actual public breakup of people that I know or anything. Not really. What about you? You definitely have a job that is well, you've had jobs like as a server and as a host where you would see that maybe more.
So I would say when I thought of this question and you were like, I need to think of some stuff, I'm like, yeah, let me think about some stuff too. It made me think of when, this is super random, this isn't going to be my only story. It's going to be brief. I was in 4th grade, I think, and it was when I first started at my new school, and some time had passed. I'd made some friends, and I kind of became friends with like this group of friends, and there was a guy and girl in our friend group that were like the 4th grade version of dating, and they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and we were at maybe it was like a baseball game. We were outside, and it was like evening, and we were at the school, so we had to have been like at a baseball game, and it was too late in the year to be a football game. And I remember like getting there and like seeing my friends and like going up to them, and they were like in a big circle. And, like, I'll go, and then, like, there's two, I forgot their names. I think it was David and Catherine.
Okay.
It doesn't matter because I am in no contact with any of these people, so it does not matter. David and Catherine, I believe, was their name, and they were all, like, there was, like, all of my other friends were in a circle, and then David and Catherine were, like, in the middle of the circle, like, fighting. And so we were, like, in a circle, like, watching them.
Fight.
This is my memory, at least. This is
4th grade?
4th grade.
9 years old?
So, like, 9 or 10 years old.
Wow.
And they were, like, fighting or something like that. And I remember, like, David walking in one direction, Catherine walking in the other direction. And I just remember being very dramatic. And, like, I didn't understand what was happening because I was in 4th grade. And I didn't understand, like, that we were old enough to, like, date and break up with each other. I was too young, I guess, to like figure that out.
I wouldn't have thought that
or
either,
too immature to figure it out
grade.
because I was in 4th grade, and they were just, it was very looking back on it now, they were all just trying really hard to be adults and trying really hard to be more mature than they are.
I'm gonna say yes, because when I was in 4th grade,
it was like this big dramatic thing, and I remember they like broke up, and then like the girls went that way and the boys went the other way, and we were all there, and all the boys were like talking to him like this was something. I just remember sitting there thinking, being like, this is really stupid. Like I just remember sitting there being like, this is really dumb, and like I don't know. And I remember going to school that next day or that Monday or whenever it was, and like asking someone about it, and they were like, oh yeah, they're back together. And I was just like, oh well, that was stupid. I was like, that was a waste of a hangout. So that was like my first, experience like seeing a public breakup. Waiting tables, and I think I talked about it on the Bear episode, or in one of our episodes, I talked about a couple that he had brought her to the restaurant to break up with her, which is kind of what happens in this episode. But there was another time where I was at the what is known as the trailer. And it was where one of my friends lived, and it was where we hung out, and we just referred to it as the trailer. And there were two people in my friend group that were dating, and this was another situation where like I kind of walked into a situation and it was already happening.
Oh, okay.
But they were like fighting, and they were like standing there fighting, and it was like they had just gotten into a fight, and it was like wow, everyone was there, so we were all just kind of like sitting there like watching them fight. And then they essentially just broke up with each other right there. And then she left, and then he stayed, and then that was kind of it.
Okay.
I mean, like, I'm really trying to rack my brain because I'm not going to say I wasted, but like I already told the story of a public breakup that I saw, but when I was waiting tables, that one was, I mean, looking back on that one was, it shouldn't have been as funny as it was, but it was so funny. It was just like, I just remember going up to the table, and they were just like, she was trying to order alcohol. I mean, I don't think I told this part. She was trying to order alcohol, and he was like, no, we're just going to get water.
I mean, like, that was so strange to me
Yeah.
to like actually go to a restaurant and
don't-
occupy a table and they're
This
not even
is-
ordering anything.
I think, and it's what happens in the episode. I think he brought her there because he didn't want, and this is so insulting to her, but like he didn't want her to like make a scene. He basically wanted to get off scot-free and not have to like deal with it, because like I don't think they rode together. I think they I think they met up with each other. So he was trying to be like, no, let's do that. Let's order some appetizers, get this over with, and I'm gonna leave. Like that's really how it felt like.
Oh, wow.
Because she was trying to order alcohol, and he was just like, no, we'll just have water. I'm like, okay. And then they were like, yeah, we'll have like chips and queso. Like, okay. And I brought there, and then like I kept going to the table like every now and then. I'm like, y'all need anything? It's like, no, we're good. I'm like, God, will y'all get out of my section? I'm just like, they just got 2 waters and a queso.
Well, you're gonna get like a
it's like
$50 tip. Yeah.
It's like $8. So I'm just like, come on, y'all. And so I remember like, and there were the last time I went to their table, one of the last times to their table, they were like, he was like breaking up with her. Like he was like saying the things to break up with her. And I just like walked in on it. He was just like, yeah, this just isn't working out for me. He said something like really like that as I'm walking up. And I just remember like walking up to the table, hearing him say that, and just turning around and walking right away, going back to like the server station where all the other servers were. I'm like, get them out of my section. I'm just like, I hate them.
Get them away.
And then finally, like so she like got visibly upset, and she got up and left. And then he just left like $10 on the table or something. Like I remember him just leaving like cash on the table. So I think what I ended up doing was I ended up like, I mean, I don't work at Chili's. It's been a really long time. I think I can reveal this. I like didn't charge them for it, and I just kept the $10. I think like that's what I did.
I would have done that too.
Because I think because queso is one of the things that you don't have to ring up. You can just kind of call for it, and they'll bake it for you. Especially if you've been working there for a long time and you're friends with people in the kitchen. Because maybe I was busy or didn't have time. I remember just keeping the cash that he gave me and not ringing up, because it was water. It was 2 waters and a queso.
Wow.
So I got a 100% tip off of them.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's just, yeah, it's that day. Random memories will come back, because it was like they were at my table they were in my section for like an hour. So it was like. And if you work in the service industry and you know that sometimes you're working shifts where like 1 hour is like a third or a fourth of your shift. And so it's just like, that sucks, especially if you're working like 5 to 9 or 4 to 10 or something like that.
And you only have that like one little table,
and it's
when
like,
you could
have maybe 4 or 5 tables in my section. So they're taking up a
fourth of your section.
Right, exactly. So yeah, it was that's probably going to always be like I witnessed a literal breakup, and I kept walking in on it, and I kept not wanting to, but I had to, because I was their server. So anybody that's ever had to go through that, I feel for you, because that sucks and it's very awkward.
Yeah, I just really, I can't think of any public breakups I've ever seen. I think kind of our version of public breakups now is seeing vague booking on Facebook, where people are talking about life changes and things for the better now, and posting memes of positive sayings. I'll give like one example currently of a celebrity, not of anyone we know, but I have seen people, especially when they will change their status to like, before it was like married, and then I think the Facebook status change was it's complicated.
Oh yeah.
That was really popular in early Facebook time, but like Jessica Simpson has just recently revealed she and her husband are separated, and it's very public. I mean, they are both not wearing their wedding rings.
Yeah.
And she has made some sort of statement or comment to the effect of like, I deserve to treat myself the way I should have always been treated for the past years. And I'm like, okay, like, and what I kind of hate about that now, and that this is the way people publicly break up, celebrity or just regular people, is really the then statements of things like, please respect our privacy. And I'm like, you just put it on Instagram.
That drives me insane when people pull that crap.
Yeah. And so, and I'm always like, you've got 3 kids, and what is it like for them to have to go to school? And I'm sure their friends' parents are on your Instagram. I mean, you're a pretty famous singer, and so I just am always like, I always say I'm glad I'm not famous. But the way breakups are now versus at a restaurant in a table or at a bar, maybe how I've seen them, or in a dorm room, or in a dorm lobby or something, is just so different today. I'm sure all of those options exist, but now it's all subtle and vague, but it's out there and people know it.
So you reminded me of something. So I'm obviously not gonna name any names, but those like you've probably seen them on Facebook. Like those videos that are, I'm putting quotations, that are real, and it's like, woman found out man was cheating on him, and then she brought this to his work, and it's like these very like staged, dramatic. They're doing it for views. They're doing it to but it's very obviously staged. And I don't know if maybe our algorithms are different, but like that's all I get on Facebook are these like fake videos of people who are trying to, I don't know if they're like honestly like trying to make it real. It's like guy tries to steal from girl and suffers the consequences, and then he gets like caught stealing from this girl, but it's like so staged and so obviously fake. But I don't know if they're like trying to make it real. I have a point to this. I don't know if they're like trying to make it real, but it comes across very fake. And I think a person that I don't know if we're still friends on Facebook or Instagram, or we follow each other on Instagram. But I think him and his girlfriend tried to make one of those.
Oh, wow.
And didn't tell anyone that it was fake. And so they've deleted all these videos and posts, so I feel okay saying this, and I'm not naming any names, and I haven't talked to this person in years. So I mean, like, if you're that person listening to it, I'm sorry. I mean, you put it on social media, so it's public.
I feel like if it's on
public,
social media,
it's public domain. It's fair game to me. So he had been posting all day, and I think I maybe even told you this while it was happening, but like he was posting stuff all day where it was like screenshots where he had gotten a hold of her phone. So we're gonna act like this was all real for a second. So he like had, I guess, gotten a hold of her phone and found like messages that she had been sending to some guy that were like, they were saying very inappropriate things, and he took screenshots of it and then posted it on his Instagram. And so I'm sitting there looking, thinking that it's real, obviously. So it could have been, I don't know, but it felt very like one of those videos that they were hoping that someone else would like find and clip it and do their own like captions and stuff, which is really weird, but people want to be famous, I guess. And he kept posting all these like screenshots, and then so I'm like, oh shit, like he's putting her on blast right now. Like he's like, she's cheating on him, or at least like having a very inappropriate texting relationship with someone, which is still cheating, people.
Yes.
And then he posts, I mean, he went I think he went live on Instagram and like,
oh my God,
and like filmed this girl, like her reaction to him finding her phone and he's like talking to her over the phone and being like, what do you have to say for yourself? Like, I can't believe you did this to me. And she's just sitting there like looking down, like not responding to it. And he's just like saying like, why did you do this to me? Like, you cheated on me and all this stuff. And it was just so weird because it felt staged. It felt fake. Maybe this is just my modern day brain thinking that nothing is real and everything is scripted, but it just came across very fake and like one of those Facebook videos. And then like the next day they were all removed. All the videos were removed. All the posts were removed, and they're still together. So it's like, so that was the only reason why I thought that maybe they were trying to do one of those fake videos, was because as soon as he deleted all those videos, I went to my reel and all of those videos were still going on my algorithm, and so all those fake videos. So I'm like, I wonder if they were trying to do that. I wonder if they were.
What do people get out of making
nothing? They get to have a viral video. Like, you don't make any money off of this, so it's just like, and it's not like people in Hollywood are like, man, we're really looking for a role. Who was that guy that caught his girl cheating on Instagram that we never saw his face? Like, I don't know what the draw is, but it just felt like this could have really happened to them. And if you're the person that did this and you're listening to this and it was real, I'm sorry, but once again, you posted it on social media. So like I said, it's fair game. But yeah, it just came across like it was fake, but just the fact that like you're willing to do that, even if whether it was fake or whether it was real, doesn't matter. The fact that you were willing to do that is a lot. Like that says a lot about you as a person, because it's just kind of like, wow, if I found out that you were cheating on me, I'm going to be very honest with you. If I found out that you were cheating on me, which we know that's never going to happen.
Correct.
We're never going to cheat on each other. We're going to stay together forever. You're stuck with me. But if I ever found out that you were cheating on me, I would be way too devastated to like even think about posting about it. And also, that is such a personal thing that like I would not want anyone. Not that I wouldn't want anyone to know about it. I wouldn't be broadcasting it.
Well, that's it for me. It's like my discussing the whole Jessica Simpson thing. I mean, she's been with her now husband. He's a former football player for like 14 years. They've been married for 10. So, but I'm sitting here going like, that's where I just am always like the cavalierness of it. It's like, I just feel like you loved this person at one point, like a lot. Obviously, you have 3 children with him, and then because all of a sudden you've lost weight and you feel like you're 21 again, going back in time, and you want to reboot your music career, you kind of have to start posting these breakup stories and that he treated you bad. And again, if he treated her bad, then that's, her prerogative to talk about. But again, she does have kids, and,
this is the guy that she was most recently with?
Yes. Okay. Yes, that she has her 3 children with.
Okay.
But again, I don't know her whole story. I've just seen what she's posted, but it's a very vague booking on Instagram.
Gotcha.
It's all the whole, like, one quote of all of that, and then people just start wondering. Or it's like when someone will post a meme that says, I was always meant to be treated like a princess or whatever it is. And people start, going down the rabbit hole of looking at people's statuses and the relationships and who's commenting on all of their posts, or, are there pictures of people together or not together anymore? So,
and even more so, like if you whether you're famous or not, and you choose to have a very public breakup, public divorce, and even if you like don't say terrible things about them, but you still like are very public about your breakup and about your divorce, but then you like stay with them or then get back together with them, it's just like, how do you think that makes you look? I mean, like, I don't mean that in like an insulting way. I just mean that in like I think that's another reason why, like, if you and I were ever having problems and we ever discussed like separating or divorcing, I wouldn't be sharing our personal business with honestly anyone. I would not be. I am a shit talker, but not in that way. I'm not in that way. Not with people that like I have a very personal, private relationship with, and like regardless of whatever happened between us, I could just never see myself like talking shit about you and like bashing you, and I could never see myself doing that, despite even if I was like angry or upset. That's just not my style. I've never been that way.
Well, I also feel like I said, I can't remember the couple that it was about. I know this is going to sound also really silly, but I think it was like John Travolta and Kelly Preston.
Okay.
Like, I think Kelly Preston at one point wanted to leave John Travolta, and they went to couples counseling, and they talked about this in an article, again, public. And she said the counselor when they were talking about their breakup or breaking up, he said before, and John Travolta apparently didn't want to break up.
Yeah.
Like he was against it. And I think the counselor asked Kelly Preston, like, do you remember why you fell in love with John Travolta? You know, like, do you, and she was just like, yes. And he goes, where did this go? And she was just like, well, it's still there. You know, and again, they ended up staying together. But I feel like I wouldn't want to do that to you or to us, and especially to like Maddie and our families. I wouldn't want to put that out there. Obviously, like our friends and family would know we were separated. I mean, if we weren't living together, but I don't think I would blast that on social media. I mean, I think I would maybe, if something was wrong, I would go dark on social media versus posting anything. I mean, I wouldn't be posting on Facebook. So I don't think I would necessarily change my status right away either. Like I don't know if I'm a status in the negative. I mean, I changed it the day we got married and that we started dating. But anyway, I think those are the differences now versus breakups back in olden times.
It's funny because like when I posed this question, I was literally thinking about public breakups, like in-person public breakups, and then you just added an element that I wasn't even thinking about that is just like so like no duh now, because I'm just like, I can't believe I didn't even think about that. Of course I've witnessed public breakups. We have social media.
Totally.
Even with people that we know.
I've seen some friends breaking up on Facebook. I mean, it's crazy, and I some of the stories I could maybe tell. I don't think the people are listening, but I think it would be obvious on some of them. Yeah, not anyone really close to us, but like acquaintances of mine from like high school, elementary school, stuff like that.
I've definitely experienced some vague booking that was very clearly they were talking shit about their ex. Yeah, in that post, I'm just like, ugh. Yeah. All right.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Let's get into this plot summary.
All right, do it.
I'm ready to kick that heater back on and get in bed. All right. Grace and Frank. I keep wanting to say Gracie and Frank. Grace and Frankie plot summary. Frankie is sitting alone at a seafood restaurant waiting for her husband Saul, his business partner Robert, and Robert's wife Grace. Frankie is in her early 70s and is dressed very earthy, leading us to believe that she is a hippie type. She sends a text, I'm assuming to her son, that says, call at 9, say the cat had a seizure, an excuse for her to get out of dinner, which I don't think I remembered that, but then like, I guess I didn't pay attention to that. Yeah. Just then Grace arrives and they exchange a very superficial greeting. They do the kiss thing where they don't really touch faces and stuff. Grace is wearing a lot of makeup, her hair is perfectly styled, and is dressed very conservatively, showing us that these two are complete opposites. Their husbands have been best friends and business partners for the last 20 plus years, but Grace and Frankie never really clicked. Apparently, Saul and Robert have planned this dinner because they have some big news. Grace and Frankie assume that they are announcing their retirement and begin discussing their post-retirement plans. Grace says her and Robert plan to go to Italy, just the two of them. Frankie says her and Saul are going to go on a trip, but a different type of trip. They're going to go to the desert and take peyote. Saul and Robert arrive and greet their wives. Saul seems nervous while Robert comes across as calm. Saul rambles on about how they're getting older and they're entering a new chapter in their lives, which is exciting for him. Robert takes over the conversation and just comes out with it, literally. Robert tells Grace he is leaving her and tells Frankie that Saul is doing the same. Grace and Frankie are both shocked and upset. Frankie tries to process this while Grace is a bit, I would say, a lot more vocal. Grace assumes they are having affairs and she demands from Robert who the woman is. Robert confesses that he has met someone else, but it's not a she, it's Saul. So for the last 20 years or so, Saul and Robert have fallen in love and want to spend the final chapter of their lives together and get married. Frankie is visibly upset but isn't trying to make a scene, while Grace has no issue with that since she knows Robert planned to tell her in public so she wouldn't make a scene. So Grace begins to berate Robert in the middle of the restaurant, which, like what I said, why would you think I could just never, let's go to a restaurant so I can leave you after 40 years of marriage.
Right. Like, that's cool. Okay.
Later that night, the married couples have returned home. Once I can't believe that they actually that
Went
Lily
home
Tomlin
together.
and Jane Fonda went home with their husbands. I'd be like, you can sleep. Y'all can find a hotel and sleep together. Frankie finally breaks and tells Saul that he and Robert handled the situation in the worst possible way. Saul tells her he didn't know how to tell her, and that even though he'll always love her, he can't be happy with her. She then realizes that Saul began being prescribed Cialis, but always had excuses as to why they couldn't have sex, making her realize that Saul and Robert have been having sex this whole time, which causes her to get even more upset. Saul decides to sleep downstairs on the couch bed, the least he could do.
Yeah.
Over at Robert and Grace's house, things aren't much better. Even during a major life event like this, Frankie and Saul are able to communicate and express their feelings, but it's very clear that Grace and Robert do not share the same quality. A few moments into their conversation, it's clear that they don't really talk to each other. Grace is waiting for Robert to apologize, and he is silent, to which she replies, "Of course." He then asks Grace if they can talk, to which she replies, "Talking really isn't your forte." Robert tells her that he's surprised she is so upset and assumed she would be relieved because they don't have much of a marriage anymore. He asks Grace if she was ever happy with him, and she says she was happy enough, that's such a sad response.
I hate that.
She thought they were a normal couple like everybody else, and he thought that there was more to life than happy enough, which, I mean, in that case, Robert, I agree with you. A little later, the couple, probably the next day, the couples tell their kids the news. The reactions are pretty much the same, mostly just shock and confusion. Frankie and Saul's adopted sons, Coyote and Bud, console their mother while denying a hug from their dad. Grace and Robert's daughters, Brianna and Mallory, receive the news in the middle of brunch from Bud via text message. So Grace and Robert said they wanted to have one last brunch before they tell them the news. The girls demand an answer from their father, who, like always, is at a loss for words. The girls immediately console their mother, and then Brianna tells her father they'll talk later and to leave the room. Later that day, while home alone, Grace receives a package, but it's addressed to Robert. She opens it anyway, and she sees that it's a chair with a picture of Ryan Gosling's face on the seat, which is probably like the funniest gag throughout the whole episode. Robert returns home and tells Grace it's a gift for Saul, as it's an inside joke between them. Grace and Frankie, fed up with all the drama, both leave their homes. Frankie heads to the vacation house she owns with Saul, Grace, and Robert. Before she leaves her house, Grace realizes that Robert and Saul wanted to buy the vacation house, not because it's an investment, but because they wanted a place to hook up. She takes the Ryan Gosling chair and leaves, which was classic.
Yeah, that was great.
Frankie arrives at the vacation house and decides she's going to do peyote on the beach to have a spirit quest in hope of getting some type of clarity. She begins to sip on the tea she made from the peyote when Grace arrives with groceries, mostly just containing junk food and alcohol. They are both immediately annoyed by each other's presence, so Grace tries to justify that this is harder for her than it is for Frankie because she is a public figure. So I think we've talked about in the episode series information, Grace is like a cosmetics mogul. She's like Mary Kay if Mary Kay was was Mary Kay a real person?
Yes, she was.
Okay, I'm dumb. I knew that.
I think so. Yeah.
Frankie is offended by that comment and tells Grace that she is a wreck due to losing her best friend, while Grace didn't even like Robert. Shots fired because Grace is visibly upset by that comment and tells Frankie she doesn't know them. Frankie apologizes for unfairly judging her and says she will leave as she already intended to spend the night on the beach. While having lunch with Saul, Robert receives a call from Grace, and she's demanding to get full ownership of the vacation house. Robert says there's nothing he can do about it right now, but he'll see what he can do. Saul still feels guilty over everything and feels even more guilty that he's now the happiest he's ever been. Robert feels the same. Frankie is on the beach. The peyote has kicked in, but she has pulled her back and can't move. She calls Grace, who is eating ice cream soaked in booze, which was so funny to watch her just eat. That was so funny. And made me kind of want to try that. She calls Grace, who is eating ice cream soaked in booze, and asks to bring her muscle relaxers to the beach. Grace does so and sits down next to Frankie, demanding, which was really funny. She's like, "What are those muscle relaxers?" She's like, "Oh," and then she takes one,
right.
but takes it with a swig of the peyote tea.
Yes.
So, hold on, flip the page. So basically, Frankie informs Grace, like, you just drank some peyote, and she's like, "Oh my God," freaking out.
That was hilarious.
Like, what's this gonna do to me? So then we are then followed by the best part of the episode, which was a montage of Grace and Frankie tripping on peyote throughout the night. Was so funny. It really was just like these two were just told, just do whatever, like just do what's funny, and they were like, got it. They were like,
Yes.
got it.
We need no direction other than that.
Towards the end of the trip, I mean the psychedelic trip, Grace begins to panic, saying that being around Frankie causes nothing but chaos because she is so reckless. Grace begins to make a comment in the realm of, this is why your husband left you. But Frankie is not going to let that happen. Frankie says it's not her fault that Robert had an affair and that Grace should take some responsibility over her life. Grace insists that it's not her fault because she did everything she was supposed to do. She starts to look up at the sky and talk to God, saying that she got married to a good guy, had kids, took care of his mother, took care of everything so he wouldn't have to worry. She is mad that she played by the rules and it still got her nothing. Which, I mean, I hate to say it with that generation, but how many women of that generation are singing that tune with marrying their boomer husbands who just leave them in the last part of their lives, be like, no, I actually like want to be real happy now, and their wives are like, oh, okay, bye. Like,
right, yeah.
It's a stereotype that's unfortunately true.
And then if she had left him to be really happy, she would have been a terrible mother,
exactly.
a terrible wife,
a
homewrecker, yeah. Abandon, their family.
Gracie then asks why Frankie isn't angry like her. Frankie says that's just not how she is, but Grace doesn't believe that for a second and begins to instigate. She reminds Frankie that Saul cheated on her, humiliated her, and that he ruined her life. Grace now demands to know why Frankie isn't angry. Frankie hesitates and says, and this part broke my heart. Lily Tomlin's such an amazing actress. Frankie hesitates and then says she can't be angry because she's heartbroken and begins to sob. Gracie, realizing she went too far, comforts Frankie. Grace admits that she was surprised by the news, but then felt foolish because spending a few minutes in Robert's study and looking back on certain events, she never noticed because she wasn't looking. Perhaps she didn't want to know the truth. Grace and Frankie eventually get up and go back to the house. They're sitting outside on the balcony, looking out at the ocean. Grace is sitting on the Gosling chair. When Frankie asks about the chair, Grace admits she stole it. They begin to laugh. They laugh even harder when Frankie says she stole Saul's Cialis, which was really funny.
Yeah, that was good.
After the laughter ends, Grace asks Frankie, now what? End of episode.
Yeah.
So funny. I want to keep, I know we say this all the time. I really want to keep watching the show.
Yes,
it's
it was
so
really good.
Right out of the gate, you feel for these women. When Frankie breaks down at the end of the episode, I kind of teared up a little bit. I was like, that I just love. Just to me, like, if you're going to be mean to my two girls, Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, I already am not going to like it because I love those women. They're hilarious. They're legends. They're such great actresses. But yeah, they got me invested. I would say like those two got me invested. And also Saul and Robert, they're really cute. So it's
I was going to say, they're cute. It's like hard to be mad at them, and
it's like they're living their truth, but maybe that truth should have happened 20 years ago. Like I said, they're from a different generation.
Obviously, that wasn't possible 20 years ago.
Like they're from a different generation, and it's just different, and I get it. But yeah, like you feel for them, but also you're like, dude, come on. Like you can't expect them to not be mad. All right, end of episode, end of January. It is that time that we talk about what's going to happen in February.
Oh, yeah.
So February is best known for being the shortest month of the year.
Yes.
So what better way to honor that than to do pilots for some shows that didn't last long, maybe cancel before their time. We have a few shows that are considered to be, like at first, like I went on like a ranking. I was like, maybe we should just do like what are considered to be like the most robbed shows of all time of a second or third season. But when I was looking at the list, I was like, man, this is like not all one same thing, but like all the shows were like very similar. People really don't like teen dramas that are depicted as realistic. I will say that because it was just a bunch of like 1-2 season shows of like My So-Called Life, Freaks and Geeks. Like there have been all these like high school shows that people just couldn't handle because they depicted teens in a realistic way. So I'm really excited for this one. This is actually one of the ones that I've been really looking forward to. We're going to be doing shows that we specifically said didn't last longer than 2 seasons.
Yeah. And
that shows that had really great potential, but were kind of cut or canceled for various reasons probably before their prime, right before they got really good, maybe.
Or they were really good and they were just cut because there was maybe oversaturation or something just happened with the network and something else came up, or I mean, I guess we'll be delving into those reasons and find out.
We have shows that have spanned starting from the 80s to the 90s to shows that pretty recently didn't last very long. A lot of that had to do with COVID, and a lot of that had to do with production being delayed. Either the show came out right before COVID and the production got delayed and then eventually canceled. Maybe it just didn't catch on like it did. And one of the shows, the channel, the network wanted to renew it, but the creator was like, "No, I just wanted to do one season." That's going to be an interesting take too. So I'm really excited about next month. We are almost into February, so we need to get on those recordings. We've already watched all the shows. We just need to get on I got just about all of them typed up, so we just have to get them recorded, and I'm really excited.
Yay.
It's going to be a fun month. You got a lot of work travel ahead of you.
Yes, I got a lot of work travel canceled because of weather here, and then I got work canceled because of the weather where I was going for another trip. So now I'm having to make up some of those trips now in February.
Right.
So February is going to be very busy.
All right, think about wraps this one up?
Yep.
All right, that wraps up this episode of We Judge a Show by its pilot. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook. You can leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in them comments. What you got for me?
All right, for Grace and Frankie, I have any of like the couples emojis,
right?
The broken heart, but then also the heart because they got together. The beach emoji, the waves, seafood for the restaurant, the dinner plate for the restaurant, the phone, the scales of justice because they're both attorneys, the Italy flag just because it was referenced, the cigarette to represent peyote, and the tea.
And Frankie buys a pack of cigarettes in the episode. Yeah.
The vomit emoji because Grace vomits. Like, doesn't she start puking when they're doing the peyote on the beach? And then the pill to represent either the Cialis or the muscle relaxers. And then the ice cream.
Nice.
All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.